All right, get this. Imagine diving into a pool of cash, but instead of water, it's billions of dollars sloshing around, all aimed at swaying an election.
Oh, yeah.
We're going deep on billionaire political donors today.
And it's a fascinating time for it. We're not just talking abstract figures, rather. We got some very big names on the campaign trail.
Exactly. We've got Mark Cuban, who you probably know from Shark Tank, and the Dallas Mavericks going all in for Kamala Harris.
Right.
And then on the flip side, there's Elon Musk, the Tesla and SpaceX mastermind,
Sure.
backing Donald Trump. I mean, talk about a clash of the titans.
Almost like a real-life superhero movie, but with political agendas instead of superpowers.
Cuban was just firing up crowds for Harris in Wisconsin, even throwing in a jab about Trump's tariffs, meaning a lousy Christmas for everyone.
Yeah, that lousy Christmas line is interesting because it really gets to the heart of what tariffs actually mean to people.
Right.
It's not just some abstract economic policy.
Right.
These things directly impact the price of goods, leaving people with less cash to splash around during the holidays.
Especially around the holidays.
Exactly, especially when you're buying gifts for family.
Right. And for someone like Cuban,
Yeah,
who built his fortune understanding how everyday people spend their money,
absolutely.
that's a message that probably resonates.
Absolutely, and it looks like he's really trying to drive that point home.
Yeah.
His campaign tour isn't just a quick stop in Wisconsin. He's hitting Arizona and Michigan, too.
Okay, so he's clearly chosen his battleground states carefully.
Yeah.
But what makes these states so crucial in the election?
Well, think of it like this. They're the swing states, the ones that could go either way.
Okay.
Candidates know they can't take them for granted,
Right.
which is why someone like Cuban is pouring his time and energy into those specific places.
Makes sense.
Winning them is often the deciding factor in who gets to be president.
It's like they hold the keys to the White House.
They really do.
Speaking of high-stakes states, we've got to talk about Elon Musk rallying for Trump in Pennsylvania. Now, I know Pennsylvania is important, but what makes it the linchpin, everyone keeps calling it?
Pennsylvania has this long history of being a swing state.
Okay.
And with its 19 electoral votes,
Right.
it carries serious weight.
Wow.
Whoever wins there often has a clear shot at the presidency. Think of it as this, like giant prize
Okay.
on the electoral map that both sides are just desperate to grab.
Makes sense, but Musk isn't just lending his star power to Trump, is he? He reportedly dropped a cool $75 million into a pro-Trump super pay.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to be honest, sometimes I need a translator for all this political jargon.
Sure.
Could you break down what a super PAC is and why this donation is such a big deal?
Yeah, super PAC does sound like something straight out of, like a comic book or something.
Right.
In reality, they're political action committees that can raise unlimited money from corporations, unions, wealthy individuals, you name it.
Okay.
They then use that money to support or oppose certain candidates, usually through like advertising blitzes or other campaign activities. What makes them so powerful is their ability to spend huge sums of money, potentially swaying public opinion and influencing election outcomes.
So it's like a megaphone, but instead of amplifying sound, it amplifies a candidate's message with millions of dollars.
That's a great way to put it. And with a donation like Musk's, that megaphone is working overtime, which, by the way, isn't surprising, considering his history.
Right. This isn't Musk's first time publicly backing Trump.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what is it about Trump that attracts such staunch support from someone like Musk?
That's a great question, and to understand it, we need to look beyond just their public personas.
Okay.
Both are known for their maverick approaches, their disdain for convention, and their unwavering belief in their own vision.
Ah,
They're both disruptors in their own right,
interesting.
and perhaps that shared ethos forms a bond that transcends their differences.
That's a fascinating point. So it's not just about political ideology.
Right.
It's about a shared mindset, a way of seeing the world
Precisely.
and challenging the status quo.
It adds a whole new layer to this billionaire-fueled political landscape.
Speaking of which, why should we, the average listeners, even care about billionaires getting involved in politics? Does it
Right.
really affect us?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah,
And it's one that has no easy answers.
right.
On one hand, you could argue that it's a sign of a healthy democracy.
Okay.
After all, everyone should have the right to support causes they believe in, regardless of their bank account.
Oh,
However, there's a growing concern that these massive donations from billionaires are less about supporting democracy and more about kind of buying influence.
right.
When someone can just drop $75 million on a campaign like it's pocket change, it really raises questions about,
Yeah.
whether politicians are truly representing the people who voted for them
Right.
or if they're more beholden to these mega donors.
It's like that saying, money talks, but in this case, it's practically shouting from the rooftops,
Yeah.
drowning out everyone else's voice. No wonder people feel like the system is rigged.
That's exactly the fear. And it's really fueling this whole debate around campaign finance reform.
Okay.
The idea is to level the playing field so that elections aren't determined by who can spend the most money,
Right.
but by who has the best ideas and the most support from everyday citizens.
So it's like trying to have a fair race when some runners get a head start, a personal trainer,
Right.
and a private jet to get them to the finish line.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder, with billionaires like Cuban and Musk backing opposing candidates, does it create a balance of power?
Right.
Or just amplify the existing inequalities?
It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
With valid arguments on both sides, some argue that having billionaires on both sides of the political spectrum kind of prevents one ideology from dominating,
Okay.
creates a sort of tug of war that keeps things in check.
Okay.
On the other hand, you could argue that, it's less about ideology and more about maintaining a system where a select few hold all the cards.
So it's less about Republicans versus Democrats.
Right.
And more about the ultra-wealthy versus everyone else.
It's a simplification, but it gets to the heart of the concern.
Right.
Are we heading towards an oligarchy where a handful of billionaires dictate the political landscape, regardless of what the majority of citizens actually want?
Whoa, that's a heavy thought. But it makes you wonder, are we, as voters, really in control?
Right.
Or are we just pawns in a game played by the super rich?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
But remember, awareness is the first step to reclaiming control.
Okay.
The more we understand how money influences politics,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are to navigate this complex landscape and make informed decisions.
It's almost like we need a crash course in Democracy 101, how to spot influence and what to do about it.
Right. And the key lesson in that course would be follow the money.
Okay.
Who's donating, how much, and what are they hoping to gain from those donations?
Right.
Because those contributions often come with strings attached, right?
Yeah.
Influencing everything from policy decisions
Right?
to which issues get prioritized.
So it's not just about picking a candidate based on their charisma or their sound bites.
Right.
It's about understanding the forces behind the curtain.
Exactly.
One's pulling the levers,
Yeah.
calling the shots.
Informed voters are empowered voters. They can see through the political theater and make decisions based on facts,
Right.
not just spin, and they can hold their elected officials accountable,
Right.
demanding transparency and integrity in government.
It's like, hey, we're watching you. We see where those campaign contributions are coming from, and we're holding you to your promises.
And that kind of active citizenry is absolutely crucial for a healthy democracy.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we, the people, have a voice
Right.
and a responsibility to actually use it.
It reminds me of something I read about the early days of American democracy. Back then, people were really engaged in politics.
Yeah.
They attended town hall meetings, debated the issues,
Right.
held their representatives accountable. It felt like a collective effort, a shared responsibility to shape the future of their nation.
It's a good reminder that democracy is not a spectator sport.
Right.
It requires active participation, critical thinking,
Right.
a willingness to engage in constructive dialogue even when we disagree.
Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, right? Billionaires, everyday citizens.
Right.
We all have a stake in the future of this country.
Absolutely.
And while we may not always agree on the best path forward,
Right.
we need to find ways to have these tough conversations,
Yeah.
to bridge the divides, to create a system that works for everyone, not just those at the top.
Well said, and perhaps that's the most important takeaway from this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
It's not just about billionaires and their influence, it's about us, the citizens, and our responsibility to engage in the political process, to demand better from our leaders, and to create a more just and equitable society for everyone.
So as we wrap up this episode, I'm left with this thought. The next time you see Mark Cuban or Elon Musk in the headlines, don't just see a billionaire or a celebrity, see a reflection of the system we've created, a system that often prioritizes wealth and influence over the needs of everyday people, and then ask yourself, what can I do to change it?
It's a question worth pondering, for sure.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving for a better tomorrow.